Welcome, welcome. I'm John, your carnivore teacher, and welcome to Monday Night Live. Tonight, we're going to talk about something that has been feared, misunderstood, and debated for decades: cholesterol. For years, people were told that cholesterol is dangerous and that eating fat would clog your arteries and lead to heart disease. But cholesterol is actually one of the most important molecules in the human body. It's used to build cell membranes, hormones like testosterone, estrogen, vitamin D, bile acids for digestion, and much of the brain itself. When people adopt a low-carb, ketogenic, or carnivore way of eating, their cholesterol numbers often change, and that can cause confusion and concern. So tonight, we're going to break down what cholesterol actually is, how it works in the body, and why context matters when interpreting these numbers. Okay, we're also going to talk about topics like lean mass hyperresponders, oxidized LDL, and why metabolic health matters more than a single lab value. So as always, bring your questions, your comments, and let's dig into the science together. So in the comments section here, type a QQQ if you have a question. Please remember that I am not a doctor and not a medical professional. So anything I say is just information that I learned. I'll be talking about myself and things that I have learned from medical professionals about cholesterol. Always refer to your doctor, your medical practitioner for information, but also you go into that doctor's office armed with knowledge and facts to have a discussion with that person. So let me see if anybody's here yet and check the comments. I see 3 people. If you're one of those 3 people, hey, type in maybe where you're from, say hi. I would love to see that. I don't see anything in the comments yet, but that's fine. I have brought, like I always do every Monday night, I have a presentation. I have some facts that I would like to read to you, and then I want to spend a lot of the time talking to you. So your questions and your comments drive this discussion. If you write nothing, then I'm just going to go on and on. Maybe you want to hear me talk. Anyway, here we go. I'm going to continue with my points until I see people typing in the chat. All right, I have 10 important points about cholesterol for low carb and carnivore diets. Now, every cell in your body, every cell uses cholesterol. It is required to make cell membranes. The structure of every cell is made of cholesterol. Your steroid hormones, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, are all made from cholesterol. Vitamin D. I know we talk about the sunlight, getting sun. Yes, that makes vitamin D, but it won't work without cholesterol. Bile, your bile acids for fat digestion. Your liver makes bile. It's stored in the gallbladder, which squeezes it out, but none of that will happen. Your liver can't make it without cholesterol. And your entire brain, most of our brain is made of fat and cholesterol. Did you know that? So your body actually produces far more cholesterol than you can possibly eat because it is so crucial. If you don't eat cholesterol, your body makes more. If you eat a lot of foods with cholesterol, maybe your body will make a little less because it needs cholesterol. Your body would not be making this important part if it wasn't important for life, for sustaining life. So cholesterol, the first point I'd like to make, is essential. We will die without cholesterol. Hey, Jennifer, you are the first one here. Thank you for popping up. Let's see who else we have here. My faithful Audrey from Kansas is in the house. And somebody, let's see, Sheila from St. Louis, and Ziggy. Hi, guys and gals. Thanks for saying hi. Tell me where you're from. And if you have a question about cholesterol or a comment, please go ahead and type it in the chat. I'm going to go back and look at those comments and read your questions and comments from time to time as I talk about my 10 points. So that was my first point, that cholesterol is vital. It is essential. We have to stop fearing cholesterol and stop trying to get rid of it with drugs. Now, my second point is that the liver produces most cholesterol. About 75 to 80% of the cholesterol in your body is produced by your liver, not from your diet. If you eat less cholesterol, the body simply makes more. If you eat more, the body usually makes less. This is called homeostatic regulation. And there are every cell in your body makes cholesterol. I mean, cholesterol is so vital. It's everywhere. And it's being produced not just by the liver, other parts of the body. My third point is that LDL, that's the low density lipoprotein, it's a transport particle. LDL is not a toxin. Now, LDL is not cholesterol itself. It is a transport particle that carries cholesterol and fat-soluble nutrients through the bloodstream to cells that need it. Our blood is aqueous. Meaning water. It's made of water. Our blood is water. And you know what happens when you mix oil and water? It doesn't mix. It separates. The fat rises to the top. So the fat, the lipids, has to get transported to different parts of the body to carry the nutrition and the signaling and the vitamins, but it can't. So that's what LDL is. That's what this little bus, this vehicle is. Water on the outside, it's it's aqueous on the outside, but inside is the fat so that it can go through the bloodstream, which is made out of water, and then it can go to where it needs to go and drop off the fatty acids for nutrition and for fuel and the many things that our lipids actually do. That is what LDL is and does. It acts more like a delivery truck. It's not a poison. That's my third point. All right, let's see who else is in the house here. Ziggy. Oh, there's Rick. Hey, Rick from Miami. Thanks for joining me, Rick. I'm just going to talk here. If I get stuck and you're still on, Rick, I'll pull you on, my friend, so we can have a discussion like we did last time. But I want to read my points here and move on from there. All right, my fourth point about cholesterol is that HDL is the recycling system. HDL stands for high density lipoprotein, and it helps return cholesterol from tissues back to your liver for reprocessing. This process is called reverse cholesterol transport. Low carb and carnivore diets often lead to higher HDL, which is generally considered beneficial. My fifth point about cholesterol is we're going to talk triglycerides now, and they always drop on a low carb diet. Carbohydrates are what raise triglycerides. So when you do a low carb, ketovore, carnivore diet, your triglycerides, sometimes they actually go up a little bit at the very, very beginning of a diet, but then they drop. Everybody's triglycerides drop drastically. Now, if triglycerides are above 150, that's starting to be concerning. And you want your triglycerides way down into the 50s, the 60s, or the 40s. And that's considered a healthy triglycerides, which you get when you don't consume a lot of carbohydrates and sugar. One of the most consistent findings in low carb research is that triglycerides decrease significantly. And that's healthy because high triglycerides are strongly linked to insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, and cardiovascular risk. Lower triglycerides are typically a good metabolic sign. And remember what I said earlier, we don't want to look at just one marker in blood. We look at the whole picture in context. Never pull one marker out and say, oh, your LDL is high, take this drug. Or, oh, your triglycerides are this number and don't look at anything else. We have to look at everything in context. And that's what the doctor should be doing. All right. And again, number 7 is let's talk about lean mass hyperresponders, of which I found out I am one. So a lean mass hyperresponder, LMHR, some very lean, metabolically healthy people on a low carb develop very high LDL, very high HDL, but very low triglycerides. These individuals are called lean mass hyperresponders. And this appears to happen because the body relies heavily on fat transport for energy, increasing lipoprotein traffic in the blood. Research on this phenomenon is still going by Dave Feldman and others, but he started that. My LDL, for personal reasons, is close to 300. Sometimes it's been 330, 320. The last time I go once a year, I get all my blood labs done once a year because I want to see where I'm going. You don't have to do that, but I like to know how I'm doing. And I also like to see my progress because I'm a carnivore. And before I was carnivore, I was ketovore. And before that, I was low carb. I like to see what my body is doing with my health. And my LDL is very, very high, alarmingly high, to the point that my doctor immediately says, I'm going to write you a statin. You have to be on a statin. Well, I have a discussion with my doctor, Dr. Burke, and maybe I shouldn't say his name, but anyway, there's probably a lot of them in the directory. And he understands that my HDL is very high, around 80. That's considered a high. And my triglycerides are 52, which are considered low. And I get my hemoglobin HbA1c tested, my HbA1c, which you don't have to do, but that's in range. And then I asked him to order me a CAC test, a coronary artery calcium score, so that I could prove to him that eating carnivore is healthy. And my score came back at a 0. I have 0 calcium in my arteries. So with my high LDL, but my high HDL, my low triglycerides, my height to waist ratio, all the little markers, that one LDL number, he can't now just look at that out of context. And he nods his head and agrees with me. Okay, you have a point. You're doing well. I still have to write you a prescription for this lovastatin. And I say to my doctor, thank you for telling me. And you can write down in the chart that I refused the statin. And he says, okay. And I walk out without a statin. And I learned that he has to do that because of his medical license, because he is audited. The scores come back and they see if he doesn't prescribe something, it'll look like malpractice to the AMA. I don't know. So we have this little silent dialogue going on, my doctor and myself, and I'm happy. But if you have a doctor that is rude and shuts you down and insists that you take it, remember that you're the boss. You decide if you want to take the statin. I'm not going to tell you not to take it. I just told you I refuse to take it because I know exactly what cholesterol is and does in the body and in my body, and I know all of my other blood markers. So I want to leave that there and let that stew and check out the comments here. Sandy is from Florida. Uncle Charlie's back in the house. How you doing? He says, what about grounding mat for under mattress? Kenberry, 7 o'clock. Are you saying that he's coming on at 7 to talk about that? I don't know what you're saying there, but grounding mat, different topic. I don't think it has anything to do with cholesterol. We talked about this in the past. I have friends. Casey Ruff is one, for example. They swear by grounding mats and grounding sheets that they sleep better, they feel better. I know people that say that their blood pressure is lower because they are using these grounding supplements. You just have to go out in your bare feet and ground for 15 to 20 minutes every day. Walk outside in the dirt, on the ground, conduct your electric field with the earth. And that does the same thing. I think if you ground longer during bedtime, it's probably better. I live in South Florida, as my friend Rick does, and we live in the lightning capital state of the world. Tampa is actually higher than Fort Lauderdale, Miami area, but we get a lot of lightning strikes. And when you put a grounding mat or a grounding sheet, the 3 plugs in an outlet. Well, that third plug is your house is grounded. There's a big stake that goes into the ground. All the wires are connected to that. In case your house gets hit by lightning, everything goes into the ground. Well, if you happen to be on your grounding mat or under your grounding sheet during a lightning storm and lightning hits your house, I don't want to be connected to that, to be honest with you. So I'm fine with just walking barefoot, which I've always done since I was a kid. I have really thick calluses on my feet. I'm always barefoot. My feet are filthy, but I don't have any cuts or anything in them, so I'm fine with that, and I wash them. But grounding is healthy. Grounding mats people rave about. I say go for it, Charlie. Let's see. So what are our typical numbers? Gerard asks. Let's post that up here. What are your typical numbers of an LMHR? My LDL is 320, HDL 88, and tris are 90. Am I an LMHR? Yes, you are. What is I don't know what your weight is, but usually these people are very lean. That's where the L comes in. As I said earlier, my LDL has been as high as yours. Right now it's around 280, but it's been that high. My HDL, usually HDL is a little, that's good. That's high. 88 is amazing. And triglycerides, 90 is okay. You want to stay under 150. You want to get your triglycerides down closer to 50 is my understanding, but 90 is not bad. So I don't know if you fit into an LMHR because the triglycerides aren't low enough, but I don't know your age. I don't know your weight. I don't know your height. I don't know your coronary artery calcium status. I can't speak to any of that. But if you're eating low carb and no seed oils, we're going to get to that in a minute, because seed oils create oxidized cholesterol, which is really bad. That's where the damage comes in. Jennifer says LDL is 170, still pushing. Yeah, I know. You'll be pushed to statin if your LDL is 115. They want you at 100 or lower. Is that crazy? That's insanity. I tell you a little personal story. I'm 60 and a half. When I was in my 30s, my mid to late 30s, I was on a statin. I was eating the standard American diet, starting to put on weight, but I went to the gym almost every day. And I noticed 35 years old, right in my prime, young, right? I felt like an old man. My shoulders hurt. My elbows hurt. Things were getting really bad. And I did my own research back then. And I realized that statins rob you they cause pain. That's the side effect, because everything is being made from cholesterol. And if you rob your body of essential cholesterol, you will have aches. You will feel crippled. And so I took myself off of cholesterol, off of statins back then, after the doctor switched me twice, telling me, oh, this one will make you feel less achy. It didn't. I just took myself off. I decided back then not to care about the number as much, but I was still eating the bad stuff. Now my cholesterol is high. It is, because my body's making it. My body wants it, but my other markers are in range. And that's why I think that they push the statin, because it's a big money maker. It's a huge multi-trillion-dollar industry. Of course they're going to push it. And I think the doctors get a kickback for every prescription that they prescribe. Jared, 135, 5.7. All right, Jared, you're thin. You're very thin. Look at that. My God, 135. You might be lean mass. I think your triglycerides might be a little too high to be a lean mass hyperresponder. I don't know how long you've been eating carnivore or low carb, Jared. Let's see. 51, yes, low carb. Okay. So get checked again. Again, my numbers change over the years. My cholesterol was as high as 320. This year it was like 280 something. I don't know why it came down. It came down because my body decided maybe I'm eating more. It doesn't need to make as much. If we went back past the 1950s, 1930s, 1920s, when we really didn't test for these numbers as much, I guarantee you, healthy individuals had very high cholesterol. We didn't have the margarine, we didn't have the seed oils. We were eating the cholesterol and our body was making it. We weren't worrying about the number in isolation. Now, we're going to talk heart attacks and strokes in a little bit, because that is the reason that statins were created and prescribed, and people were getting heart attacks and strokes. So we'll talk about that. And cholesterol is involved in heart attacks and strokes. It absolutely is, but let's put it in context. We'll look at the nuance. All right, let me read a few more here and then I'll go back to my notes. Jojo, how you doing? LDL is 295, HDL 119, triglycerides 52, CRP. That's another one. That is a test to find out your inflammation in your body. Is 0.7. I'm assuming LMHR, been carnivore almost 2 years. You look, your triglycerides, let's see. HDL is 119. That is just fantastic. That's the highest I've ever seen. That's phenomenal. And triglycerides low. You sound like a lean mass hyperresponder for sure. How do you feel is the most important thing. And make sure you're not consuming seed oils. Wow. All right. Uncle Charlie says some guy snake diet YouTube channel was calling Anthony Chafee, what? Ken Berry Dad, Sean Baker Dad. All right. Okay. People, I guess adults call other adults names. What can I tell you? When you become as big as Chafee and Berry, you attract everybody. You get the serious people. You get the inquisitive people. You get the nut jobs. And yeah, it happens. So I just ignore them when they do that. He's stealing the name. All right. Anyway, let me go back to some of my notes here and we'll continue to talk. I want to talk about my 8th point. My 8th point is about oxidized LDL. Now, in our arteries, arteries are like, your vein, you have capillaries, you have veins, you have arteries, right? You have these smaller to bigger. Arteries pump large amounts of blood in and out of the heart. And you need that clear, obviously. And sometimes a plaque will form in the artery wall because there's damage in the artery wall. And that plaque can grow and get bigger, and the blood has problems flowing through the artery. And so the blood pressure goes up. And if that plaque gets big enough and continues to grow, or there's other plaques along the route, then the blood can't flow. And that is called a heart attack. Or if that happens up in the brain, it can be called a stroke. Now, the question should be, what is causing the damage in the artery that the artery makes a plaque to fix the damage? But they don't ask that question. The doctors may see a plaque or see a cholesterol number and say, oh, you have an artery that's clogged. We're gonna just throw some medicine at it. That's what they say. Instead of what is causing the damage, they throw medicine at it. And what causes damage? And let me ask you that and see if you'll write that in the chat. What causes arterial damage in the arteries of our heart? Write that down for me in the show notes. Let's see if you guys know what the answer is. And while you're typing the answer, I'll continue to talk about oxidized LDL. So when LDL, which is good, becomes concerning is when it gets oxidized, which means damaged. All right. You know how iron, when it's exposed to moisture and air, it rusts. Well, that rust is oxidation. Okay. The oxygen molecules are transferring and it's damaged. Oxidized LDL can occur when LDL particles are exposed to chronic inflammation, which can be caused by a whole bunch of things. Oxidative stress, smoking, high sugar intake and carbs, seed oils, canola oil, soybean oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, canola, Crisco, margarine, insulin resistance. All right. Healthy metabolism reduces the conditions that promote oxidized LDL. So LDL is good. Oxidized LDL is bad. Do they distinguish between the two in medical tests? I don't know the answer to that. They just see LDL, HDL, and then they may break it down into all of the VLDLs and IDLs, intermediate. But they don't say, is this oxidized? What is your diet? They never ask you in the doctor's office, what are you eating these days? Tell me about your diet. I've never had a doctor ask me that. And every person I talk to, the doctors never ask what you eat. They just say, this is your number. Here is a pill. And I think that's what's wrong. That's my 8th point. Let's see if you guys wrote the answer of what's causing the damage in the arteries. All right. RJ. Hey, RJ, you comment all the time. Thank you so much. I see you. Inflammation. All right, that's correct. Jojo, oxidation. That's correct. Jared, inflammation. Jennifer, inflammation. Uncle Charlie, bad food. Rick, blood sugar. Exactly, everybody. It's all of that. Smoking, alcohol, carbohydrates in excess, sugar in excess, all of that. The sugar and the carbs are sticky. They glycate. They stick onto the endothelial cells of your arteries. Okay, so here's your artery right here. The endothelial cells are the cells that are on the inside, endothelial, the inside of your arterial walls. And those cells get sticky, they get stuck, and they get damaged. And if you think of an egg, okay, think of a boiled egg versus a fried egg or a hard-boiled egg. When they're supposed to be round and plump, but they get damaged, so they kind of flatten out. And then they leave spaces between the cells, and then blood can flow through the spaces and get in, and damage can get into the bloodstream. And then the body senses this damage from the sugar, and it sends protective measures to fix the damage that you caused by eating too much sugar, too many carbohydrates. And so what goes there? Calcium goes there. I see, now I'm not a doctor. I can't think of all the words, but there's like 5 different things that all flood to the area. And one of those things is cholesterol. It is. LDL is part of the process in making a plaque. Now we go back to the original question, what caused the damage? And it was carbs and sugar mostly, and oxidation and inflammation and smoking, yes. If the damage is not being caused, what happens when the blood flows through the artery? There is no damage. The blood just flows through. The high cholesterol has nothing to do but build hormones and make vitamin D and make your myelin sheathing for all your neurons and axons and make your bile, make your testosterone, make your estrogen, make your cells, but it's not making a plaque because you don't have any damage in there because you're a low carb eater. If you're low carb and carnivore and you manage your stress and get good sleep, and you move and exercise, you probably don't have arterial damage. It doesn't matter if that LDL number's high. That's actually a good thing. It's not good if it's oxidized, if it's damaged, and then that causes a problem, and then that causes inflammation, and then that causes oxidation. So there's so much nuance to this topic that whenever somebody asks me, oh, but what about your cholesterol? I can't give a single flat answer to that other than my cholesterol's high. And they'll say, see, you shouldn't be eating only meat. And then I say, do you have an hour? Can you sit down with me and listen to me for an hour? Because it's too much to explain, to understand about cholesterol, about arteries, about sugar glycation, about oxidized LDL. It takes a while to grasp it. And the average person doesn't have all the knowledge because we were not told all of this knowledge. We were only told, don't eat saturated fats, fear cholesterol, and take a statin so that the industry makes money. I can't not talk about this. All right, let's see what else you had to say there. Jennifer, tell me to eat more complex carbs. I will not, Jennifer. Don't eat more complex carbs. Carb is a carb. I don't care if it's a simple carb or a complex carb. Okay, a carbohydrate breaks down into glucose very rapidly. The amylase in your saliva and the amylase in your small intestine, all carbohydrates convert into glucose, period. So when you eat rice, you eat bread, you eat potatoes, you're eating starch. Starch is a long string of glucose molecules. It all converts to simple monosaccharide glucose every time. A complex carb would be something that does it a little slower. Brown rice goes a little bit slower. Whole grain bread breaks down a little bit slower, but the same amount of glucose is going in your body. And it's really not that much slower, to be honest with you. I hope that helped you understand that, Jennifer. RJ says, my dog's vet will ask, what's the dog eating? Doctors don't ask. That's so true. I had 2 dogs, and they're always saying, what are you feeding your dog? They never ask, what are you feeding your human? Gosh. All right, Jojo, I just love the way you explain everything. So, well, thank you. I'm a teacher. If I don't understand, hey, when I was a kid, I used to drive the adults insane. I would always say, why? But why? Why do we celebrate Christmas? Why do we celebrate it? Why is there an Easter bunny? Why is there a bunny rabbit? Why is this? And why is the sky blue? I drove everybody insane. And a lot of the adults did not have the answers for me, and it frustrated the heck out of them. And I'm still that way. When I taught in the classroom, I always felt the need to answer my students' questions, the why questions, because I always had them. And I like to know the answers. And a lot of times the answers are simple. They really are. Okay. The doctors tell you that, yeah. All right. Rick says, I have not had a blood test, and I knew you were going to come in back. I knew you were going to say that, Rick. That's fine, and you don't need it, but I have always had it, and I like to see where I'm going, and it's validation. Just like when I got my CAC score, I didn't need to get my coronary artery calcium score. There's no point in spending the money to get it, because if I have a calcium in my arteries, what am I going to do about it? I'm going to continue to eat my low fat. Wipe that clean, start over. I'm going to continue to eat my 0 to low carb and my high healthy animal fat carnivore diet. But I got the test because I want to see my number. I want to see where I am. Do I have any current damage or past damage? It's just a mental thing. And Rick, if you ever do decide to go get blood work, I think it would be really cool to see what the 41-year-old carnivore's blood is like. And then you could post all your numbers and tell everybody and say, see, I've been doing this for 41 years. These are my LDL, HDL, triglycerides, HbA1c, my liver numbers, my kidney numbers. It'd be nice to know. You don't have to, I know you don't want to spend the money and you don't need to know, but I'll tell you, you would be a great candidate for it because you've been on carnivore for 41 years. And I know you're very healthy. I am not disappointed in not getting a heart attack. And anybody who knows Rick says his goal was to get that heart attack as a teenager to prove everybody. How do I get rid of that? He doesn't want to go. Ooh, I'm stuck. There we go. Okay, let me go back to my points. Guys, if you have more questions or comments, go ahead and write them in the chat. So my 9th point is that metabolic health matters more than cholesterol alone. You know, heart disease risk correlates strongly with insulin resistance, high triglycerides, low HDL, chronic inflammation, and high blood sugar. Many people on a carnivore or a low carb diet improve all of these markers, even if LDL rises. That's a fact. All right, my 10th point, my last point that I prepared for you is that cholesterol is part of the body's repair system. You want this thing. Cholesterol is often found at sites of arterial injury because the body uses it to repair damaged tissues. So yeah, it makes that plaque if you've got consistent damage. But if you're not damaging it, it's not going to have to go and be part of the repair. But you want that function when you have damage in parts of your body. You want that cholesterol. The cholesterol does its job. In other words, it can sometimes appear at the scene of damage, but it may not be the original cause of the damage. It isn't the original cause. Some people say, don't blame the firefighters for starting the fire. That's what today's doctors do. Oh, you have cholesterol that's 320. You need the statin because the cholesterol is going to give you a heart attack. That's not true. That is false. I can't wait to the day that the doctors learn this. This is not causing the arterial problems. The arterial problems caused the cholesterol to make a plaque. Anyway, numbers on a lab report should always be interpreted in context, including metabolic health, diet, inflammation levels, body composition is big, and overall lifestyle. All right, some people are still smokers or vaping. Your body does not do well with nicotine. Your body does not do well inhaling soot. Why do the animals run in a forest fire? Away from the smoke. All right, our innate common sense is to not inhale smoke. So number one is we shouldn't be smoking. Number two, and I know you don't want to hear this, a lot of you, and don't get mad and hate me, but alcohol. Alcohol is a toxin. Hard stop. There's not a single benefit to alcohol, even red wine. It's all a toxin. It gets converted to acetaldehyde, and then it converts into another aldehyde, and then finally carbon dioxide and water to be exhaled or urinated out or sweat out, because the body has to get that toxin out. If you're a regular drinker, that adds to the insult in the body. And so that and smoking and sugar and carbs all contribute to damage to our blood vessels, to our endothelial cells that I talked about. Getting good sleep, grounding, it's all part of the formula. Moving and exercising, staying fit. And mindset is vital. If you're a spiritual person, pray. Believe in the higher power. If you are, if you'd like to meditate or do deep breathing, do mindfulness, this is just powerful beyond belief. I do something, and I'll share this with you. It's very personal. I don't want to say the word suffered. That's the only word I can think of. But I taught for 34 years. And when I stopped teaching and I retired in 2022, all of a sudden, boom, everything stopped. And you would think, oh, wow, this is great. He's retired. He can relax. He can do anything he wants. The stress got worse. I had a form of PTSD because my body was so ready. My mind and my emotions were ready to be stressed. 5 classes of over 30 kids every year for 34 years. The kids, middle school kids, the parents, oh my gosh, the code red drills, the fire drills, all the stuff involved in the children's complexities and the parents and the curriculum and the stress that they put on me. I functioned very well in a very high stress environment that was constant. And I would get off for the summers a couple months, only 2 months, by the way, but I always knew it was coming again. So I was always on the ready. And that's a form of post-traumatic or just a traumatic stress disorder that when I stopped teaching, it never went away. And I would find myself just stressed. And I had to teach myself that I'm safe. It's okay. I had to tell my body and my psyche that I don't have that stress anymore. I don't have to be on the go. My fight or flight doesn't have to be on the ready at all times like it was every single day that I taught. So I'm still learning how to rest. I'm learning how to take things in a calm way. That mindfulness is powerful. I do deep breathing, I meditate, I work out, and I still have to do self-talk and tell myself not to be in a fight or flight mode because my body is so conditioned over all those years to be at the ready. And I don't have to be at the ready anymore. I think that's why I function so well on the Carnivore Sunday School, the Monday nights live, this thing. I make my videos every day because I'm so used to a ritual and a routine of doing and producing and being there for people. And I'm still doing it, but I'm doing it at my own speed. That is healthy for your body. And so my cholesterol, hopefully, is not going to be impacted, any damage in my arteries because I'm taking care of myself. Everybody's different and everybody has to find what works for them. And that's what works for me. I thought I'd share that with you. Okay, let's see what we have here in the comments. Amazing. You think I'm no, Rick, come on, man. I met you in person and I've spoken with you on live on shows so many times. You are healthy. Oh my God. You're healthy and you look great. So at least outwardly, you look very well. I don't know your numbers though, but I bet you are. He says cholesterol is a building block of testosterone. It is, and of estrogen and progesterone and cortisol. It really is. Got to have it. All right. RJ has a question. Would you please explain the gut lining? Oh, my goodness. That's a general question. I don't know if I can do it justice, RJ. Well, our gut, I'm assuming, is referring to our small intestine, I guess, and or our colon, which is the large intestine, or after the large intestine. And our gut lining produces enzymes that break down fat, that break down starch into glucose. Our gut lining, the bile is being squeezed and dripping into the small intestine to break down fats to like a detergent so they can be microscopic and get absorbed into the blood and do what they're supposed to do. Our gut lining is filled with quadrillion bacteria that are healthy. Some are bad bacteria. Most of them are good bacteria if you're healthy, and they all have to be in balance. And a lot of us, they don't even know all the details. Science doesn't understand all the concept of our good gut bacteria and the connection to our brain, but it is connected. And the food gets digested and gets broken down in the stomach, and it moves through the intestines. The intestines are the gut. The gut is where everything gets absorbed. If you're a carnivore and you're only eating meat, fish, eggs, and animal fats, you're getting protein, amino acids, and fatty acids with almost no carbohydrates. So the body uses basically 100% of it. There's basically no waste or very little waste to be pushed out of the anus. So the colon. So what is being pushed out is shed cells that are shedding, mucosal layer, some of the food, maybe. When you eat meat, you're eating the gristle, which is the veins in the meat. That's kind of like a fiber, and that gets wasted. It gets pushed through. So the gut is important. If you have part of your intestine removed, you will have absorption problems. People do, and they have to take supplements because they're not absorbing their vitamins and their minerals. That intestine, that gut is probably very important. I should probably do a whole video just on the gut lining. Yeah. And some people have some gut issues. They have some, I can't think of the name, but little pockets. And some people, when you go and get a colonoscopy, they go up as far as they can. They start to see that. So I don't know if I addressed that, RJ, but the gut is vital, and a healthy gut does not require any fiber at all whatsoever. Fiber often is an irritant, and it's like sandpaper. scratching and scraping your intestines. We don't need it. Some people are okay with it, but anybody who has an issue in their gut, in their intestines, it's because of fiber. If you remove the fiber, a lot of the problems go away. Rick says he never drinks alcohol. Rick, I am like you. I never drink alcohol, and it's because I don't like it. I think it's disgusting. I have so many friends, though, however, who love their alcohol. And for them, it's hard to stop. So I'm open to understanding other people's way of thinking. I'm blessed. I have a few friends that have a problem with alcohol, and they have to get help because they can't stop. I'm the other way. I couldn't be an alcoholic if you forced it on me, because I think it's just disgusting. And anytime I ever did drink, and I did try it many times, I would get an immediate headache instantly. It's a fascinating test. Give me some alcohol, watch the headache form. So for me, it's a no-brainer. All right. Steak Man, Texas. I like that name. And I love steak from Texas, man. When I was in Texas a few times, the amazing amount of restaurants that had wonderful meat. He says the cholesterol tests completed by doctors in the beginning of the big pharmaceutical scam. I'll never give a rip in the cholesterol numbers ever again. I'm metabolically healthy. Good for you, Steak Man. Good for you. Hello from Northeast Ohio, Carnivore Talk. Now look at that picture of this guy on the screen. He looks like he's an official radio disc jockey kind of guy. I hope I'm doing a good job. Diverticulitis. Thank you, Rick. That's one of the diverticulosis and diverticulitis are the pockets where seeds and nuts and things can get stuck and cause major irritable bowel problems. Hey, there's my friend Tim. Think of the millions that Fiber One made, right? And psyllium husk, fiber capsules. I was one of those people. I used to buy psyllium husk, and I thought fiber was good, and I would take a teaspoon every day, and I had big, bulky stools, thinking it's working. What was it doing? It was probably destroying me from the inside out. All right, Carnivore Talk. There he is. Fiber-free mostly and cured ulcerative colitis. Hey, I had colitis once. It was not fun. Anybody who's never had a form of colitis, it's pure torture. I'll tell you my quick story. I was trying something stupid in the kitchen. I was cutting chicken up, right? Raw chicken. And I put it in the food processor and I put it into a pastry bag and I was squeezing it into boiling water. I was going to try to make like chicken spaghetti. I saw this YouTube video, right? Well, I must have put my fingers in my mouth or touched my nose or something with the raw chicken. And I got a nasty virus that sent me to the hospital. Yeah. And I was in there for 2 days and they did a test and you're on the toilet literally every 5 minutes with terrible cramps and pain, and very little comes out. Some of it's blood. That's colitis. You can't sleep because it keeps you away. It's a terrible. Anybody who has colitis or anything in that neighborhood, I can empathize with you. I know what it feels like. So I had that. I was in the hospital for 2 days. I had that for 2 weeks, and the test came back that I had Campylobacter, which came from the raw chicken handling. So I say to anybody listening, when you handle pork or poultry raw, do not touch your eyes, your nose, your mouth, any part of your face, and wash your hands and the cutting board and the knives thoroughly and cook that pork and poultry well. We don't have to cook beef as much because it's a monogastric, or it's a ruminant animal. But pork and poultry, man, boy, did I learn my lesson. I wish that not on anybody. All right, Tim says, the corrupt system brainwashed all of us on fiber. You're right, Tim. Hope Michelle, how do I know that name? I think I remember you from a long, long time ago. Hi, Carnivore Teacher. Quick question. Are you on every Monday at a certain time or just this one time? I started coming on every Monday, Hope. So you're welcome to join me 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. I'm not sure what time zone you're in, but I've been coming on for a couple months now, and I have a different topic, and you're welcome to join us. All right. Let's see what we have here. Jojo says, Carnivore fixed my diverticulitis. Doctors told me I needed to eat more fiber and take Miralax every night. You want to know about Miralax? Did you ever read the ingredients on Miralax? I'll give you a little hint. Some of the ingredients in Miralax are the same as antifreeze in your car. Don't ingest Miralax. Don't ingest it. Even the generic brand. I used to do it when I was having constipation issues. It works, but you're also basically drinking antifreeze. Look it up. Look up Miralax and antifreeze, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So I'm glad your diverticulitis is gone and that Carnivore healed it. Tim says, Jojo Dang, until I researched and found Ken Berry. Okay. Great. Yeah, Ken Berry pops up all the time, that man's name. And I say his name a lot too, because he answers a lot of medical questions, and he himself is a medical doctor. He and Nisha, his wife, they're such a great team. And so many millions of people are being helped by these two. All right, Tim has a question. Is your backdrop healthy? This is cholesterol. I always try to find a background that goes with it. You want to see what my background really looks like? Here's what my background really looks like. Let's see. There we go. That's my background. I'm a green screen. So I have a green screen and a light in front of me, and I have a microphone here so that my sound is good. And I just like my gadgets and my video production stuff. So when I come on Monday Night School, I like to pick a background. Like, here's a background. All right, this, if I could play with these backgrounds. So I picked one that was cholesterol. Is it healthy? Yes, it is, because this is cholesterol. And cholesterol is vital and healthy in the proper context. So good question. All right, Hope says, does that tattoo say Carnivore? You know, you're the first person that asked. Okay, so let's see, where is it? I'm looking in the mirror. Yes, it does. Carnivore. I just got it last November. This one says resonance, as in pitch. I have near, what is it called? I have perfect relative pitch. And it sometimes haunts me, but I can hear music. I can reproduce any song on many instruments first try without mistakes. I always could do that as a child, and I can sing and I can play instruments, and it's just part of who I am. I was born this way, so I put resonance on my arm because music means a lot to me, because I hear, I realize I hear things that other people don't hear. I can hear the pitch in an air conditioner. I can tell you the note of a hum up the street. I don't know why. I just was able to do that. So that's part of who I am. And Carnivore is such a big part of who I am. I decided to do that. And then I got the Polynesian. I've always wanted sleeves. And now that I'm a retired teacher, I went and got them. So I wanted my Polynesian ink. All right, let's see. Any other questions? Is tattoo ink? Oh, good question. All right, Tim. Is tattoo ink carb free? Yes, it is. Tattoo ink is basically carbon. It's black carbon. There is no glucose or sugar in it. When it's being injected by needle, it does stimulate some inflammation locally, and then the body isolates it and heals it. And then once I'm healed, I'm fine. And anybody who has tattoos, especially black ink, it's inert and it's not harmful. Some of the older colored inks, reds and blues and yellows, the older stuff had lead in it and had mercury and other things that gave it its pigment. But I've learned, and I don't have any colored tattoos, I didn't want them. I've learned that the newer, more modern colors got rid of the toxic metals that gave them their their colors. So I just have the black. All right. Awesome. Love the music thing. I have kids who maybe like this. Tattoos look great. Well, thanks, Hope. Tattoos are a personal thing. You know, some people react very strongly, negatively, very strongly, positively. Some people don't even care. I did this for me. I've always wanted them. I've always been afraid to get them because I always was afraid what other people would think. And I didn't want to be judged. But I learned that this is actually the opposite. This frees me from other people's judgments. And it's my way of professing who I am. And I love them. And they're me. I'm going to stop, though. Everybody says, are you going to get more? Are you going to get more? I'm going to stop. But I'm really happy I got them. All right. Does anybody have any more cholesterol questions? We kind of got off topic a little bit. I think I'm done with my 10 points. I am finished with my 10 points. So let's see. Yeah, I chose the background because it's just a picture of cholesterol I found on the internet. Next week, I'm not sure what the topic will be next week. Let me pull up my little ongoing list. I was thinking that next week, I pulled up the wrong thing. I was thinking next week I would talk about coffee. What do you think about that? Coffee is a topic that comes up all the time. And they want to know, people want to know, do you drink coffee? Is it okay to drink coffee on Carnivore? I know my friend Rick hates coffee, doesn't drink coffee. But I know a lot of people who are low carb, keto carnivore who drink coffee, caffeinated coffee, decaffeinated. What kind of coffee? How to make it? My friend in Australia, DC, totally against coffee. Dr. Berry drinks coffee. Dr. Kiltz drinks coffee. Is it bad? Is it good? I think coffee is a great topic. What do you think? And that's might be my topic next week. Okay, here's one from Tim again. After you saved cooked bones, freeze them, then recook for broth, do they still have nutrients left? The more you cook them, the less minerals, the fewer minerals there are in the bones, right? And the reason that you're slow cooking or pressure cooking the bones is to pull out the minerals and the collagen, because bone broth gets gelatinous. Here's how I make my bone broth. I don't take the raw bones. I always have all the bones from my meals. Ribeyes, ribs, whatever. They go in a big bag in the freezer. Then I put them in. I do the crock pot, fill it with reverse osmosis water. I put a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar to pull out the minerals from the bones. I put it outside, not inside the house. And I let it sit there for 48 hours on low. I started out on high for a few hours. And then by the time the 2 days have gone by, I let it cool. I pull the bones out. I have a sieve and I pour it all through the sieve into a metal bowl. Never use plastic with anything hot. And I pour it through the sieve again, all the particles. And then I fill glass jars, mason jars, with the dark colored bone broth. And I let it cool down. And then I put it in the refrigerator with the lids. And the next day, there's this layer of fat at the top, which is pure beef tallow or lamb tallow, whatever bones I threw in there. And then if you look at the stuff that's brown, it jiggles. It's very gelatinous. That's all the collagen that came out of the bones. And that also has wonderful magnesium, potassium, sodium, manganese, zinc, copper, all these minerals. Calcium. It's a great source of calcium. Bone broth is maybe I'll do a topic on bone broth alone. Bone broth is so healthy. You can drink it warm. You can drink it cold. I make bone broth soup. It's the base to my soup. And then I put stuff in there, meat and shrimp and butter. And I get this amazing soup that I eat every other day, by the way, because I have tons of bone broth. So I know, and when I answer a question, boy, do I answer a question. All right, Carnivore, let's keep going here. What is the difference between LDL and ApoB? Both those markers for me are in the extremely high range. I want to talk more knowledgeably about this. And I believe ApoB is a marker on the LDL, which one has to do with the amount of cars on the road versus the size of the LDL molecule. And I can't speak eloquently enough to give you more detail because I'm not quite sure. I'd have to Google it for you. I think I did speak on this in one of my videos, so check out one of my LDL videos. But yeah, usually if your LDL is high, your ApoB could be high too. Sorry, I can't answer that better. All right. Hope says coffee, in my opinion, is not good on carnivore when we already have hydration to focus on, especially if in heat. Good topic. All right. Good points, Hope. All right. Rick says, I think it's a good subject. All right. I think coffee is going to be next week's subject then. Tim says, thanks. And Tim says, I'm not sure what you're saying there. Stiff sif, what that means. But anyway, we are now at the end of my cholesterol hour. I hope you walk away with something you may not have known. That's my point of this, is to learn. I'm still learning, as you saw with the one of the viewers recently. I didn't have all of the knowledge. It's okay to not know everything. We have access to knowledge, and that's the most important part. Never stop asking questions. Always strive to learn and grow and be more than you are and better than you are. You never stop learning or knowing it all. And then when you learn something, don't just keep it in the I learned something category. Move it over to the application. How can I apply this to my life and make my life healthier and better? That's the completion of learning, is the application. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Rick. Thanks, everybody. Hope, come back next week, please, and join me every Monday night. We'll do coffee next week, and bring your coffee questions, and we'll talk coffee. Thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of your evening. Oops. Hold on. I got to end the stream here. See you later.